I would now like to call Dr. Ali Khan to come and say a few words to inaugurate this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. And we are known to be very hospitable people in Lahore, but I promise you this heat wave is not for you. Just to drive home the point of this particular workshop. By 1800 BCE, this advanced culture had abandoned their cities, moving instead to smaller villages in the foothills of the Himalayas and to the plains of the Ganges. We're told that amongst the most likely culprits for this movement away from the urban settlements of earlier was climate change. Shifts in temperatures and a weakening of the monsoon rains led to prolonged droughts, which would have severely impacted agricultural productivity, leading to food shortages and rising socioeconomic stresses. There are some elements clearly of déjà vu here as we see modern-day Pakistan face severe climate and water-related stresses, which in turn are having catastrophic socioeconomic impacts. 2 years ago, we'll all remember, 1/3 of the country was submerged under floods. More than 33 million people were directly affected, with a staggering 20 million requiring urgent humanitarian assistance. Nearly 12 million people were displaced, and at least 2 million houses destroyed, along with critical infrastructure, including thousands of schools and public health facilities. The damage was estimated at over $30 billion. Today, at least 1.5 million people are still displaced. Basic necessities such as food and shelter continue to be out of reach for a large portion of the flood-affected population, and more than 40% of them relying on humanitarian aid for survival. Unlike the Indus Valley civilization, there is nowhere for these people to migrate to anymore, nor do they have the economic or political means to do so. Their lives and their livelihoods are shattered, probably for generations to come. For the past 20 years, as Mariam pointed out, Pakistan has consistently ranked amongst the top 10 most vulnerable countries on the Climate Risk Index, with tens of thousands of fatalities due to climate-related disasters and enormous financial losses from extreme weather events. Yet, Pakistan is only responsible for 0.3% of global emissions, but is and will continue to be disproportionately and adversely affected by climate change through increased variability and extremes in weather. The floods represent only one terrifying example of the impacts of climate change, but the country faces multi-pronged environmental threats. According to the World Bank, Pakistan is one of the most water-stressed places in the world. It is estimated that Pakistan's water availability per capita has decreased from 5,260 cubic meters in 1951 to about 1,000 cubic meters in recent years, indicating a severe water scarcity situation. The UNDP estimates that by 2025, which is just around the corner, Pakistan could be in a situation of absolute water scarcity, where there is not enough water to meet basic needs. Water scarcity lies at the heart of cascading impacts. Agriculture consumes 97% of Pakistan's fresh water, and the water crisis is putting the largest sector of the country's economy at risk. This will impact cotton, for example, which plays a pivotal role in the backbone of the country's industry, textiles, and will lead to an estimated shortage of about 70 million tons of food, again, by 2025. Increased hunger and malnutrition will follow for a country where both these issues are key developmental concerns. Besides water deficiency and drought, waterlogging and salinity are also affecting Pakistan's crops. 60% of the population lacks access to safe drinking water. 30% of all diseases, as well as 40% of all deaths, are attributable to poor water quality. The WHO estimates that around 55,000 children under the age of 5 die each year in the country due to waterborne diseases such as diarrhea, cholera, and typhoid. In addition, Pakistan only treats 1% of its wastewater, one of the lowest rates in the world before it is discharged into rivers and drains, further limiting the supply of usable water. There is also significant water wastage. A few more depressing statistics related to climate change make for further grim listening. At independence in 1947, forests accounted for around 30% of Pakistan's total land area. Today, that figure is less than 4%. Air pollution shortens lives by almost 4 years and kills in excess of 120,000 people every year in Pakistan, something that we are acutely aware of in Lahore, where our lives are reduced by an average of 7 years. We are also in the midst of a crippling heat wave which will further devastate crop yields and impact water availability. And to top it all off, Pakistan's population is expected to exceed 380 million by 2050, with a growth rate that is very resistant to declining. Unfortunately, battered by multiple crises, political and economic, policymakers, the media, the public, and educational institutions have not given water and climate justice the importance it clearly demands. We are years, not decades, away from a real existential threat to millions of people. But it is possible to have an impact. Pakistan made a strong case for the establishment of a fund to address loss and damage caused by climate-induced disasters at the recently concluded COP27. And there have been successful policy interventions by the local government in Gilgit-Baltistan, where people living in vulnerable locations were relocated to safer places before the floods. Unfortunately, in contrast, the provincial government in Sindh was severely criticized for their heavy-handed and poorly thought-out response to flooding. Water and climate justice requires international cooperation, but it will require also a strong commitment from state and society in Pakistan. I hope that this workshop will make a small contribution towards increasing these conversations on campuses and in civil society across Pakistan. For that, I'm extremely grateful to the organizers of the workshop, our colleagues from Yale, particularly Dr. Sunil, Anthony, and Kasturi, the Water Institute at LUMS, in particular Dr. Abu Bakr, and the organizers from the Gurmani School, Drs. Mariam Ibrahim, Sana Khosa, and the chair, Dr. Waqar Zaidi. They were, as always, supported by our staff, led by Nasiruddin and his team. I'm particularly grateful to Mariam and Sana. They are young faculty members juggling families and pressures of research and teaching, but they were fully committed and enthusiastic about this event. They are also key members of the environment minor that we have recently launched at the department. So on behalf of the Gurmani School in LUMS, I'd like to welcome all the participants. I'm sure that this workshop will be full of urgent and fruitful discussion and debate. Thank you.